Hi, my name is Queen Anne Cannon. I'm the executive producer of Peninsula View. What you're about to see is an awesome plan, a way to protect your family and before they need it. So you either do it now or before. It's always better to do it before. It saves you money, time, worry, and heartbreak. So as you watch this show, really think about yourself and how you want to be remembered by your family. Dignity Memorial is a heartwarming, compassionate company that guarantees everything. So give me a call if you'd like more information after the program's over, 218-3153. And thank you so much for watching Peninsula View.
Again, my name is Ernie, and I am part of Dignity Memorial. And we're part of the community with where we live, we work, Newton and Queen Anne. I'm blessed to work with this young lady because of the experiences that she's encountered, because I think she's 6 months older than I am. So she's got that much, at least that's what she tells me. I want to show you a small little film, and then I'll come right back up.
If I could give you one piece of advice, pre-plan. It is definitely the way to go. Pre-planning brings the peace of mind to the family at the time of need.
It's like when you pre-plan for your retirement.
Because of the pre-planning, we were able to go through and do the little things that were important to the family and not have to worry about the planning process.
The only thing that I want my family to worry about is to be on time.
With pre-planning, you need to bring every detail into it that you want.
It gives you the opportunity to shine the way you want to shine.
We could really concentrate on our mother's wishes, her memory that we wanted to let everybody see.
This way it's not a sad time, it's a happy time.
The casket background was a royal flush. She had a golf club in there, anything that she enjoyed.
They won't have to worry about anything. It might even make them mad. They have no reason to argue, bigger, or anything.
With my father's funeral, we didn't have a pre-planned arrangement in place. And with my mother's, we did, and it made things a lot easier for the family to go through the process. You can just have the peace of mind that everything's taken care of. I left feeling happy, and and that's exactly how she wanted it. I think that pre-planning just takes all the guesswork out of the process, that you planned your funeral exactly the way your loved one would want.
It's a very tough conversation to have for many people, and it doesn't have to be difficult. But one of the things I want to share with you is the University of Washington Psychology Department wanted to know what are some of the things that cause stress. So inside your folder, there is a sheet that looks like this. And one of the things that they asked is, what is it that you feel is stressful? And these 6 items popped. And they're not in any particular order, but these are the things that most people find very stressful in their lives. About 5 years ago, you remember a lot of the economy here in Silicon Valley is very stressful, loss of a job. You're right. That's a tough one because a lot of people identify with their jobs, right? They've been there a long time. A lot of that people were identifying, you go to college, get a job, then retire. And it became very difficult when they got outsourced and re-engineered and whatnot. So it became a very difficult time. I was at the University of Notre Dame. I was a pastor for single, separated, divorce, and widow. And one of the most difficult things that was brought to our attention was that it's very difficult when there's a death because you can't drive by and yell at the person, like you can on divorce. You drive by and say, "You idiot," But in the death, you have all these emotions that happen. You got anger and you got frustration, and you have guilt because you might have not said a kind word when you left, or you have unsaid things, and then you're feeling like you're left behind, and the other person deserved to live and not you. So the emotion roller coaster is very difficult. So let's look at it, what it is that they came back with. And there it is, the most stressful events that happens to us in our lives are the death of a spouse. It's very, very tough. It is guesstimated, nobody knows for sure, but it's guesstimated that for every year it takes about 6 months to overcome that loss, you know. It's kind of like people that lose an arm, they still feel the arm is there. And it's very difficult to deal with that. Divorce, as I said, you know, I was making fun, but it's devastating. When I went through my first divorce, it was horrible. I became a single parent, a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and all of a sudden I'm a mom and a dad. And a lot of people in the valley have a very difficult time with that because we were all sold, right? You marry your prince or your princess and it's for life. And then all of a sudden you have, life gets in the way and you have that. And as I said, sometimes it's a good thing, it's not a bad thing. Death of a family member, loss of a child especially. As Queen Anne mentioned, you know, her son passed. And I can tell you, you know, that's devastating for anybody. I cannot relate to it, I can only empathize, and I appreciate the fact that she's a partner with me to deliver that message, because we both then can deliver it differently to families. Personal injury or illness is another one that's very tough. I was injured a little bit, not major. I fell off the bar stool. No, I was kidding. But I'm a dancer, and for me, it's a trauma. If I can't go dancing at least once a week, you know, it's like a withdrawal. And a lot of people who used to propel themselves and now, you know, either lose a limb or they are handicapped. That's a pretty traumatic, and you see that a lot. In marriage, you're right. You know, getting ready for marriage is a tough one. Sometimes you can't get the hall, you can't get into the dress, us guys, right, that you want to get into. Yeah, actually, we guys are lucky. We just got to show up on time, right?
That's true.
And say nothing, right? Because when she says, "What do you think?" you go, "Whatever you like, dear." Right? And that's a good marriage tool. Loss of a job, we've already talked about. So these are the things that pretty much affect us. And believe it or not, stress is a cause for death. And it's a tough one during the holidays. It's important to note that you could be like the lady on the right there having a difficult time. You wake up, but your partner doesn't. What do you do? Who do you call? That's traumatic. We have some people like Newton who used to work with what we call that need. And you're dealing with these people who are trying to make decisions. They have to make it immediately. And when you come into our funeral homes, we ask you, is it cremation that you're interested in, or is it burial? And then once a decision is made, then we say, how would you like to pay for it today? Because there's no payment plan at that point. Yeah. You know, a lot of times people come in, for example, as we talked about, Silicon Valley has a lot of blended families. You know, second marriages, 25 years later, the husband dies, the wife makes a decision that he's going to wear a suit and tie, and the kids say, hey, wait a minute, my dad hated those things. Why not have him in a Tommy Bahama shirt? So she made a decision that affects this family that used to celebrate holidays and vacations together. Now they don't talk to one another. Other things that occur, if you have, for example, a mom or a dad died, that, like in my case, my children, I raised them by myself, that I'm from a third world country, so they're not going to be able to answer readily what was my mother's maiden name, because they know her as Abuelita, Nana, Grandma. The oldest is going to say to the youngest, well, you're the last one out of the house, you should know that. And the young one is going to say to the old one, well, you're the oldest, you should know that. So instead of leaving them together, here it is, you know, they're arguing about it, the most simple little thing. And we have families that come to our funeral homes that later on never speak to one another. So those arrangements are important. Where do you start? We start out very simply with a visit that we would like for you to schedule. And that we don't have these out. I'll tell you why. We have found that we're into thousands of homes as a company every year. And this little book is called the Personal Planning Guide. It's about $1.98 to print, but families have told us that once it's filled out, it becomes priceless when there's a loss of a loved. And we'll go through it in just a second. protecting your family is important, you know, getting our kids through school. I tell you, I had an interview yesterday with a young man who was devastated. He's 31, just lost his wife, 3 children. Aneurysm, you never know. So they weren't planning on her passing, they were planning on those little 3 girls that they left behind to graduate from you know, school, go to college, and eventually a marriage, and then they're going to plan whatever other things they do. So planning is important. One of the things we want to do is we plan for example, when our children get ready to drive, before we give them the key, that they attend driving school, that they have a vehicle that works, and it's insured before you give them the keys, right? So this is just the next step that we need to do in life. You know, the Egyptians knew it, that when you were born, the bill you got is the next one is death, right? You got to be prepared for it. And the tradition continues, right? Everybody dies, 100%. It doesn't make sense not to plan because it is inevitable. And again, I'm going to come back to this book and why it's important. You got to have a conversation. You have to make a decision for families, because we very often, I'll tell you, we had this is a good time for me to share a story. Back in July of 2 years ago, we had a young lady that came into our need, and we asked her, what kind of services would you like? And she said, well, my husband used to kid around and say, oh, just cremate me, throw my ashes into the wind. So go ahead and cremate them. Well, about 90 days later, when she's brave enough to start cleaning out her stuff to give it to Goodwill, she goes over to his side of the bed at the nightstand, pulls the top drawer, and sees an old Bible that she didn't even know he had, that's been in the family a long time. And inside was folded at one of those yellow sheet of paper, legal, 3-way, and it said, I was in the military, I want full honors, and I want to be buried. She was devastated. She came in to see us and said, what do I do? Well, as you know, once we cremate, we cannot undo that.
Yeah.
So, but we were fortunate enough to be able to order the military honors and the folding of the flag tradition. But still, can you imagine that burden that you carry the rest of your life? The same thing happens to our children if they have to make a decision. Did I do the right thing? Did I do what was necessary? The rising costs, and I'm going to tell you what just happened to me, because I've been presenting this for about 4 years, but just happened to be last Friday, I had a gentleman who called me and said, Ernie, I just moved out of the area, I no longer want to be buried, and I want to be cremated. Things have changed for me economically. He was a little older gentleman, you know, and I don't know if you guys heard yesterday in the news, I got good news for all you guys, and me too. The average is going to be we're going to live to 100.
Yes.
The bummer is where's the money going to come from, right? So here's the thing. He said, Ernie, I bought a cemetery plot. I want you to see, you know, what kind of value, what's it cost, and I can't remember what I paid for it. So I went through our records, which was, you know, all yellowed and everything. It was back in '68. He paid $218 for the plot, making $5 payments a month. Today, the same plot's $17,000. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. And so it's the rising costs that we got to worry about. It's not just the fact that it's going to cost more, it is a lot more. And since I've been there, I can tell you our average in the 4-year time started out about $6,000 average for a funeral. Now it's about $7,500 for just the funeral. That's not the hole in the ground or a niche on the wall for the ashes. Somebody said, hey, I want to have my ashes spread. Can you arrange for me? I said, it's $350. He said, what? Yeah, that's what it costs, because you have to be, was it 250 yards away from the ocean, or 500 yards away from the shore. So everything costs, everything. And it's rising continuously. So you want to prepare for it, and you want to talk about it with the family. And one of the things that you definitely want to do is make it easy on yourself. Here's a table of contents, and it tells you what's inside. So, because I don't know, like you guys, I put my keys in the wrong spot and I go crazy. I've even done, I don't know if you guys will laugh at me, but I've looked for my glasses, I get in the shower, and then all there there they are, right?
Yeah.
Has that ever happened to you guys? Oh, thank God, I thought it was just me, thank you. All right, so, and so you can imagine how traumatic it can be trying to figure things out. Here it is. So, as I mentioned to you, one of the questions they're going to ask is, you know, where was I born? What was my mother's maiden name? And what city was she born? Well, my children know her, as I said, as Grandma and Nana. But the country I come from, we have cities called Chichen Itza and Chichigalpa. My sons are going to say, Chichi what? You know, then I got to remember, then I got to know. So it's written down. They can just tear it off, give it to the people they need to give. And so the other thing is, I had an incident that happened to me. As I said, I've been dancing for several years, and I've made several friends that we keep in touch. And some of you guys have that, where, for example, on your phone, I left my phone somewhere? Oh, there it is. We're 7 minutes away from, they said, no, 7 inches now from our phones. But I have about 2,600 numbers on here. So if I were to pass, my kids and I don't know who to call. So what you want to do is you want to record on here and say, in case something does happen to me, call these people. I happened to call last March. I called and I wanted to talk to Ronnie because it's just catching up, right? And I called up and I said, Phyllis, it's Ernie. How is Ronnie? And there was silence. Then I knew. I opened a wound. She was trying to get on and people are calling because I wasn't notified. She wasn't thinking of calling me, and his kids weren't going to know me because I just, you know, we dance together and everybody goes home differently. Same kind of thing happens when somebody passes if you don't let the dentist know. All of a sudden, hey, your dad's going to have his teeth cleaned. Well, he died 3 months ago, you know? Or even worse than today with the power of the internet. You know, people get that social security number, and all of a sudden, 90 days later, you're getting a phone call. Your spouse opened an account in Florida. He rented a car from Hertz and never returned it. You know, he opened a Home Depot account in Arizona, and he's past due. And you can say, well, he's never been there, so it's not my problem. They filed a lien against your property, and now you got to hire an attorney. So instead of getting past and moving forward, you're now dealing with these issues. And when you file a joint income tax, guess who's attached their bills to you, right? Yeah. So it becomes a problem. So by having it written down here, you eliminate that problem, you have a conversation, and where we say to people, you know, if you're going to have pallbearers, why don't we write down their names and let them know that they're going to be a pallbearer, right? And let's do that one in pencil, because they might be, you know, they might not buy you lunch on your birthday, you might get mad at them. So one of the things you want to do is definitely let those people know that's important and what they mean to you in your life. You're able to write also your eulogy a little bit. My kids don't know I was born, as I said, in a third world country. And the things that, for me, that are phenomenal, and I still remember, matter of fact, I was talking to Donnie, that's her name, my other half. When I was a kid, we used to run between the sugarcane fields, and we used to take the sugar, which is brown naturally and is porous, and we used to shave it and put it in a calabash, a gourd, that's dried out, you know, fruit. And then we put a little cocoa, and then we go to the cow and milk it, and you got the foam, and I can still smell it every time I talk about it. Now, if I were to drink it now, I'd probably be doubled over. But these are the things that for me were important. So I write that. And instead of, I went to a funeral of a friend of mine. The guy is a dancer. There's 5 of us. We always hung out together. We've gone on cruises together, and we've known each other a long time. He passed about 4 years now. And we were at the funeral, and they were saying how wonderful John was, great sense of humor, always had a kind word, and all 3 of us going, are we at the right funeral place? Because this guy was everything but. We loved him because we hung out with him, but he wasn't any of that, right? So you want people to know you and who you are, what you did, and you want to say things to the people that meant something to you, you know? So that's why this book is real critical, and at the end, it's got a page that simply says, in life, to my dear children, in life I took care of most things that needed to be done, and I made the decisions. And this was my last gift to you, so you don't have to worry about it. All you gotta do is show up, you know, and I love you. And that's it. And then we signed off, we as counselors signed up saying, you know what, we talked to you about it, but it's up to you to do the rest. Now once you're completed with this, we go ahead and suggested to people, put it in a double freezer bag. And put it under the ice cream, so when their grandchildren come to get ice cream, they say, what's that? Then you say, hey, I needed to tell you about that. In case something happens, you pull that out. And the other thing is, if there's a fire in the house, the likelihood of the refrigerator, freezer surviving is excellent. So that's why it's a good tool. One of the other things I want to share with you is right here. You got to have a strategy. First of all, you got to have a dialogue. You got to reflect and say, hey, you know what? I'm at that point in my life where I'm complete. How I ended up, and the question was asked to me, Ernie, how did you end up in this business? I was 35 years into banking. It's because my mother had colon cancer. And praise the good Lord, she survived, but the medication fried her brain. And her memory is like, you know, the short time memory is all gone. She can't remember. She's been to both my son's weddings, and that she's a great grandmother. I have to remind her to show her pictures. But you know, she's got a great smile. She's a lovely lady, and she was a single parent, which has been my model and my hero, if you will. And so we sit down and we write these things down and say, take care of these things. So I took 3 years off to reflect and spend time with her, and I still have her, and hopefully I'll see her later on after we finish here today. But we have it recorded, and then we want to sponsor it, we want to support it, we want to put some money aside a little bit. I'll share with you how important that is. We have a program that everybody is qualified, whether you're in good health, bad credit, and if you can make minimum payments, we work with you. Because our mission, and that's why I came to work with this company, is there is a way to help. All you gotta do is make the decision that you definitely want to start. And we can work with you. We can have you have it financed. You can pay it all up front. You can pay it monthly. You can make it, when you win that lotto ticket, pay it off and take me on a trip with you. And then you want to share it with your family. You want to let them know what it is you want and how you want it. Because there's nothing worse than walking around trying to make a decision. The other thing that happens with children is, you know, when they show up to at the funeral at need, unprepared, uninformed, they overbuy. Well, you know, I felt guilty. I didn't visit mom as often. So they spend more money. And then the decisions between brothers and sisters, well, you got the job, I'll pay you later, you know, you pay most of it. Or, hey, you know, you got a business, so you pay all of it and I'll pay you as we go. Or you pay $1,000 and we'll pay $500. And then the couple that has to pay the $1,000, the wife says, why are we paying $1,000? I didn't even like your mother when she was alive, you know? And then so all that stuff happens, and it's instead of being together, everybody's agreeing to disagree. So we want to eliminate that. And you want to look at, how do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered as the one that felt like a ton of brick on your children? I get a lot of that. You know, people say, oh, it's going to be my children's problem. And I always say, is that how you want to be remembered? Because they have their own children. I had a gentleman that says, oh, my son's going to take care of it. I said, how much is he putting away a month? And he goes, are you kidding? I got to pay his car payment. And so I said, well, where's he going to get the money then? And how often have we driven down the road and we see on Monterey Road, car wash, and people asking for money. I was at one of the grocery stores here. I'm not going to tell you it's on Willow and what's the other street that was Almaden, right? I'm not going to say it. Okay, so there's a grocery store there. And I went inside and I saw these two people and I thought, I introduced myself, and she had a picture of her husband and she had a little box containing, please help to donate to bury my husband. Mm-hmm. You know, that's got to be painful, not only that you have the loss, but now you got the, you know, burden of the calf. So planning ahead is very important. And what should the service look like? Do you want flowers? Do you want an open casket? Do you want a viewing? Do you want to be at the church? Do you want a ceremony? A lot of people say, oh, you know, forget it. You know, once I die, I'm gone. It's not about you. You're gone. It's about your children. How do they remember? How do they reflect? When they lose a child, or they lose a job, or they go through a divorce or a catastrophe, they are definitely connected. I have two sons, as I mentioned to you, and I raised them by myself. I can tell you, my youngest son has already said, Dad, there's no way you're not going to have a place that I can go visit because I need you. You are my rock. That's a good compliment for me. That means I left a good legacy and a good heritage. I did my job, but I also know it's not about me at that point. It's about him. And so the other guy doesn't matter. He says, hey, Dad, I got you up here. You know? Some people can do that, right? Do you, you want to be buried, you want to be cremated, and again, that celebration in today's economy is causing people to be cremated. What's the difference between the two? It's a choice, and we sit down with you and see how we can make that work for you. Okay? So we're going to continue, and we're almost done. Why, why should I have a spot? And as I said, some people need to reflect. I'm one of those that I need to go and say thank you. Just like, when I'm grateful for something, I stop and I might say the Lord's Prayer. And every time I go down here to the cathedral at San Jose, which is just 2 blocks, I stop, I park, and I go in. And I say thank you for being blessed, just to be able to walk and propel myself at my age. And the last thing that we want to do is give tribute to those things, to those people that we acknowledge for us for being here. And today we know that one of the biggest websites is that Match.com, right? Meet somebody, or genealogy. Where do I come from? And who am I? How did I get here? And so we know that that's important. That's why a lot of people want to leave a mark where they can be found, so that their loved ones can come. We want to eliminate the guesswork. I cannot overemphasize that. We want to definitely communicate that. We want to record it. That's why that planning guide is critical. And we want to sit down with you, share with that, and you can set an appointment with Queen Anne, or we have my amigo Newton. I love that name. Isaac Newton was one of my people I respect greatly. So when I met Newton, I said, whoa, reincarnated. So use your Dignity Memorial Personal Planning Guide. So it's recorded, and that's what we want to do. Sit down with you, because each of us are individual in what we like and what we appreciate and how we want to be celebrated. Support the plan. Put some money in it. Get it started. We have plans that if you make the first payment, you cross the street, bus hits you, or turns over like it did, was it last week, that poor lady came all the way from the Philippines and took the bus, and the bus turned over and died right here. If she would have made the first payment, the whole payment of the funeral was paid for. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. And we have a program that's phenomenal that, like myself, I'm very proud. My oldest grandchild, I have 4, it just turned 4 2 days ago. My oldest, and because my 2 boys have 2 boys, all 6 months apart. They do everything together, about 6 months apart. So, because of with the size that we are, we have the ability to provide to our customers a service that's called child and grandchild protection. What that entails is, the service that I buy for myself is provided to my grandchildren from birth to 21, as long as they're not married, or children, not that I'm looking for any when I get home, but from birth to 21, as long as they're not married, they're also protected, so you don't have to pay for that. So as a responsible granddad, I took care of making sure that I had my service done, so my children were protected from birth to 21, but more importantly, my grandchildren from birth to 21. And I can tell you, we just had a death, you guys read about it, 2-year-old, was it 3 days ago, right? A real sad story here in San Jose. Convenient payment terms, as I said, we have a payment term for everybody. It can be monthly, could spread out 3-year, 5-year, and we in some cases have 10-year availability. So, and if not, we have the old, some of us are old enough to remember the layaway plan, right? So inform your loved ones what your wishes are, especially if it's written, then that way they don't argue about it. Keep the copies, as we said, in a cabinet. They're saying at home in a safe. I shared with you in a freezer. It's a lot easier. Let your loved ones know where your documents are. Have the conversation so they don't have to argue or fight about it. Provide your family with peace of mind so that way they don't have to worry about that. They got enough problems going on in their own lives without having to figure out what do they do for you, right? Or like your brother, your sister, you don't want them to be accountable for you if they're the ones. My brother, for example, he can't remember that we're having a 3 o'clock event because he'll show up at 7. So if that guy had to worry about my funeral, I'd still be in the freezer 6 months later, right? All right. The other thing that we want to do is we want to talk about if you went to another provider, why should it come to you? Then we're saying to you, look for some of the things that are, so you can have a comparable. All of us shop, what do they call consumer shopping, right? You Consumers Digest, they compare this with that. so that you're on a par. We're guided by J.D. Powers, and J.D. Powers is an organization that checks all industries throughout the United States from 1 to 100, and we happen to be ranked among the top tier as a funeral service providers because of the name itself, dignity. We respect everyone to the extent that if you're not satisfied with a particular service that we're doing, give us the opportunity to correct it, 100% will do it. Highest standards of service, as we just talked about, 100%. Nationwide network. What that simply means is we're very nomadic in the country right now. If we're in California, we want to move to Arizona or to New Mexico where it's a little warmer, or to settle with our children in Iowa or wherever, we can transfer the service to one of our other locations because we have 8 states or 8 provinces in Canada, and we are in the United States. We're the largest throughout the United States, and including Hawaii and in Puerto Rico. So you don't have to sell what you have. It's transferable, like for like, comparable property. It's not going to be the same. It's because you're not going to take the plot here and move it, right? But you can take the same service quality at the same standard. Bereavement travel is something that a lot of us don't appreciate, but I'll tell you what that is there's an 800 number all the family can call, and they will take care of getting the best prices for airfare and getting the rents of cars. They do all the logistics for the hotel so that you don't have a family member running to San Jose Airport, Oakland Airport, San Francisco Airport, trying to get them to come down, figuring out the baggages and all that. They do all of that. And they do it at a bereavement price, so there's a discounts wherever possible. Programs to help the loved ones. We have, for example, our services come with a support. All of our services come, and the reason they do that is because one of the things that happens in bereavement is that, for example, if you have ever had a teenager, the communication is not the same. And so when you're dealing with pain, different people deal differently. Especially us macho dudes at 2 in the morning, if we lose a loved one, I'm going to call my son and I'm going to say, hey, can I talk to you? I'm having a hard time. And he's going to say, Dad, I got to work, and you call me at 6 o'clock tonight, I'll be home. But now it's my heart is pounding off my chest. So instead of having that dialogue, you're going to call a bereavement specialist, a person that has been educated in the field, and you're going to talk to an actual person. And some people have a difficult time in articulating verbally, so you can even do it by email. And if you pair up with somebody that you have a good dialogue with, you can ask for that person and they will contact you back for 13 months. And if your child needs the same service, they can call in. So everybody in that household has a support system. Instead of you trying to be that person that takes care of everybody, has the right words, right expression at the right time, which is very difficult to do, right? All right, so that's very important. We want to make sure that those things are available when you compare. Should I go with Dignity Memorial, or should I compare with other services that are available? So again, we are the largest funeral service provider. It says 2,100, but we have grown since. We are controlled by 3 different ways. Our licenses are controlled by the state of California because we have a life insurance license. So a state commissioner we have to comply with. We have a cemetery license, which also the state of California cemetery commissioner. And then we're also controlled by the SEC because we're a publicly held company. So the ethics for us is very strong, and everybody that joins our organization has a very extensive background check. We support the community where we live. We live here in San Jose. Well, I commute all the way from Sunnyvale, 13 miles, okay? Honoring those who serve. We have the largest partnership in the United States with, and we're real proud to share this with you, with designated cities throughout the United States. We have, last year, serviced the burial cremations for over 2,000 indigent military. So we work very close with them, and we're very proud of that. Keeping families safe is very important for us. We have a program where we go out in the community and help seniors how to work on keeping themselves safe, what to say when callers come in, don't give social security numbers, go in lighted areas, travel together, make sure you keep your purse near you. Comforting those who have grief. We're out there with auspices, and we have people that go out into senior centers and have conversation. This has been provided to you inside your package, and we urge you to fill this out. Whether you do business with us or not is irrelevant. This is something so that we can keep a copy for you, or even send it to your loved one and say, hey, you know, this is what your parents wanted, or this is what your loved one wanted. You know, who do you want us to communicate in case you walk out the door and you got that call from heaven? Because nobody else is going anywhere else, right? We have reservations already. So we want to make sure we have that. But more importantly, those of us who like pictures in books, this is a great book. Lots of pictures in it, and I urge you. I'll tell you a cute story. This is something I laugh about with my peers all the time. I go to homes, you know, I visit maybe, I don't know, 1,000 homes a year. And I go into homes, I see this book in a mantle in a beautiful, pristine, shrink wrapper, and I see it on the mantles, and I ask people, how come you have it up there? Oh, it's an heirloom. We don't want to ruin it. We don't want to damage the pages. And I say, well, it's okay to lick it and, you know, put the dog ear in it and write in the margins. You know, oh no, it's an heirloom. But, so that's just my quirk. But you're going to win the opportunity to have a raffle to have one of those. So you definitely want to have those. I periodically look at it to remind me how blessed I am to be in this country and to work in this area and to have the children that I have. So I want to thank you very much for allowing me to come up and share part of the morning with you guys. I'm going to bring it back to Queen Anne, and she's going to charge you all for the meal, she said.
I think about $35.
$35.
So I'm going to end this and really thank you again. And if you want more information, just give me a call and we'll make that happen. So thanks again.